Evening chaps, welcome to another video. So in this video we'll be going through the multitude of different tasks I've done this mini over the last few weeks, which include, if you can see, I have fitted a screen washer bottle. I have done an oil catch can install. I'll go through that and why I've done that. I've also fitted my clutch cable. I've also done the throttle cable. I've had to do a kind of like a custom throttle cable to deal with the standard mini accelerator pedal, and obviously to work with the ITBs. Also, I'll be going through how I've black oxide coated some of the sheet metal brackets I've used here to mount the components. So if you've seen my other videos, you've seen that I've made some brackets to mount the radiator. I've got some brackets now to hold the oil catch can. I've got some brackets to hold the washer bottle and a few others. They're all currently in mild steel. So that's not good enough, so I'm going to try a black oxide coating as opposed to paint. Try something different, never done it before. Done a bit of research, looks quite good, gives a nice finish. Maybe more rust than paint, I don't know. Gonna find out. So hope you find it interesting. So hope you enjoy. Okay, first off, oil catch can. Boom. Clues in the name. So before I go through why I've positioned it there and how I've plumbed it, I'll quickly just overview what it's for. So the idea is it's an oil separator, and typically you put it in between your PCV valve connection on your valve cover here and in your intake. So a typical engine will have pipe going from here into your intake. The idea is it ventilates crankcase gases into your intake so that the pressure doesn't increase too much in your engine. That can blow seals, and it goes to the intake because it's a result of blow by on your piston rings. Sometimes that can carry excess fuel and stuff like that, and that does not want to be vented to the atmosphere. It will go for your intake and get burned up in your next combustion cycle. Okay, problem with the design is that often what gets carried with it is oil vapors, and they can go through your intake. You can coat the inside of your intake system, your intake manifold. You can coat the intake valves and cause some issues. So obviously the purpose of the oil catch can is to capture these oil vapors. So you can install these with a normal traditional engine. So like I was saying before, in between where the PC valve is and the intake manifold, so it'll capture and separate the oil and catch it, hence the name. And then that's only it's left going back for the intake is the stuff that you don't mind going through the intake. So typically like excess fuel and stuff from the blow by, which can be burnt up. Okay. So the reason why I fitted an oil catch can is obviously I don't want the oil vapors going back through my intake, but also with the ITB setup, that is it's quite difficult for me to have a traditional breather arrangement because with ITBs I can see they're open. There's no manifold here for me to plumb to, so an oil catch can was a logical solution. So to go through how I've plumbed it. So most oil catch cans will have inlets and outlets. Okay, I think no, well I'll say that. Some don't. Some will have two inlets and then a top vent for like multiple inlets from like, you know, V8s and stuff like that, and big systems which have two banks. You want inlet 1, inlet 2, and then you're venting the atmosphere. This one has an inlet and an outlet. So how I plumbed it, I've got the outlets from the valve cover here and another breather here. So both of these traditionally would have been gone to the intake manifold. Okay, so I have brought these two together here, and they're both going to inlet of the oil catch can there. So any oil vapors would go through here into there, get separated and get held in there, and then I can drain it out if it's getting too full. And this particular oil catch can I've ordered has quite a neat oil dipstick, which looks pretty cool. So I can check the level. If it's getting too high, I know that I need to drain it. And then you've got your outlet here. I've mounted this off an existing bracket next to the engine. I can't remember what this did, doesn't matter. So I've put like a little bulkhead barbed fitting in here, so it's nice and sturdy, it's not going anywhere. So the idea is that any gases, not oil, obviously oil will get caught there, any fuel, anything like that will blow by, coming out here will get filtered, so it's not just getting pumped into the atmosphere. Okay, so that is my interpretation of how this should be plumbed. I have done a bit of research and I'm pretty sure this is correct, but let me know any comments. One thing I did do as well is, based on some research, the PCV valve here, obviously it's a one-way valve, it kind of relies on intake vacuum to pull open and pull gases through. Obviously in this case it is not connected to the intake no more, so it doesn't have the intake vacuum force, shall we say, to pull it through. So what I've done, I've taken the PCV valve off and I've basically just bored it out, so now it's just a straight coupling there. The reason why I did that is because this is natural reduction size from that size to that size, and I couldn't find a suitable fitting easily, so I thought I'd just modify this. So that is currently open, it's not an actual PCV valve anymore. Okay, I've also picked that position there because it was a relatively unused space in the engine bay. I was contemplating fitting it there, but I also wanted to keep this area as free as possible to help airflow being directed into the radiator, not clog it up. So I've decided to mount it there, and I've created a sheet metal bracket here that I'll be black oxide coating later on, and I've utilised these existing mounting points already on the Mini. So from what I understand, this is mirrored from the normal side here, and it's the mounting points for the brake master cylinder and the clutch cylinder, if you've got one. Obviously mine converted to cable. I think just the reason for that is just it keeps this sheet metal design here, these panels, the same, and it allows for obviously left-hand drive versions. Okay, so I thought, no, saves doing some more drilling. I'll utilise the same holes. Don't worry, I will get a blanking grommet for that. Okay, so that is my setup. That is my interpretation of how it should work. I think it should be fine, but let me know in the comments. Any feedback is appreciated. Also, I glossed over this, but if you're wondering why have we put it here and not right on the inlet, it's because my thinking is, as gases are expelled from this filter, obviously some will get through the filter, like vapour, fuel, stuff like that. I don't want it to be too close to the intake, because obviously with this, the engine running, a lot of air being pulled into this area here, I didn't want it to pull shit, so to speak, from there into there. So I thought I'll mount the oil catch can there, because it's a nice open space, and I'll use some tubing in this, and I'll relocate the outlet through the filter here. So if you're wondering, that's the reason. Okay, throttle cable. So this is my plan for the throttle cable. So the ITBs here, I've got the existing throttle cable mounting bracket from when these were on a bike that nicely lines up straight with the throttle plate there, and the standard entry point for the throttle cable into the bulkhead for a Mini is just through that gap between this metal and the subframe. Okay, so I'm going to run from there to there. So my plan is to go here, and then rather than just run a big length of cable around here, I'm going to use a 90-degree fitting here to bring the cable in line with it, look nice and neat, and then through there. Okay, so let's go through some of the parts I'm going to use to make this custom cable. Okay, so first off, I have got my throttle cable, which is like this wound metal wire. Okay, I've got the outer cable sheath, should we call it, and then I've got this is going to be my 90-degree fitting I talked about a minute ago, to go there. Just put some M10 nuts. That's going to mount to the bracket. These look familiar. These are typically what you see on motorbikes. Actually, I'll show you. I've got my motorbike out here. See, on my motorbike here, typically that's where they're fitted. I thought I'd utilise one of them because it gives me a nice 90-degree bend. It also comes with this here, which is an adjuster, so that'll extend or shorten the outer cable essentially, so you can take in and out any play you have, which would be kind of handy when you're making a custom cable, because if I set this correctly and once I've done my measurements, if I'm slightly out and there's too much slack in the cable or it's too tight, I can do some fine adjustments. Okay. So for this to work, a custom throttle cable, you need 2 anchor points. So this will be the anchor point for the cable at the ITB end, and then this here is a second anchor point. So this is a fitting that comes off a standard mini throttle cable. So on a standard mini throttle cable, you'll have an outer sheath like this, and this will be inserted onto that like so, and this is sized such that there's a hole in the bulkhead to the mini, and this will fit directly in that. It won't, and it's just a tight fit, so it holds itself in place, which is fine. You don't need to be absolutely secure because the tension in the metal cable will hold it in place. So I ripped this off the old cable to use again. Okay. One thing to note for safety reasons, this is the outer cable sheath, so this is what you call a nylon lined cable. So inside there it'll have a little not nylon, sorry, Teflon lined cable. So in there we'll have a Teflon lining, which is very important because obviously with metal throttle cables, these are wound metal wire, and if they were to fray and stick out, the Teflon stops them from gripping. Because obviously if you didn't have that, it would stick out and it would grip down the sheath, and essentially that could act like sticking throttle cable, you know, which could be pretty catastrophic if you put your foot down in your car and the throttle cable sticks down. So if you're doing this, make sure you get a Teflon lined outer sheath cable like this. Okay. So first step is I'm going to do the outer section. So I'm going to put this onto here, put that into the mini, and then route it to this section on the ITB. That'll give you my length. I can cut it from that point, and then I will then cut the metal cable to suit. In terms of the cable ends on the throttle pedal is the standard mini throttle pedal, and it has this little bit on here. I made this, so I'll show you how I'm going to make these because I did this as a tester. See if I get the original one over here. So that's the original one here from the old throttle cable. So this sits within the throttle pedal. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make these just using some solder and some flux here, and just a like a propane torch. Okay, so that will be on the throttle cable end. On the ITB end, I may be able to see. I'll try. On this end, you've got an indentation in the throttle plate, a cylindrical hole, and that will fit a similar to this, but more of a cylinder like that. I think they call them barrels. I'll give an example of it here. There we go. Right. Oh shit. It's like that. Okay. So that'll fit over the cable, and then that'll hold itself into the throttle plate. I'll thread the cable through them, and then on the other side you've got a thread and a grub screw, and that will grip the cable so you don't do any soldering. So I bought some of these off the Jungle website, so I'm going to have to do my terrible soldering on one end. Okay, let's get cracking. Okay, first step, I'll be putting on this bulkhead fitting onto my outer sheath cable. I haven't cut anything to size yet, so this is still my full length I've purchased, which is 1 meter's worth. So I'm going to put this on here. So if you're wondering how this connects, I'm just going to use some super glue, because like I said before, the tension of the cable holds this all together. So I'm going to put some super glue on the outside of there, and then this will sit in there. It's quite a good tight fit already, see? Okay, do that. Okay, so that end has been pushed through. I glued the fitting on, let it dry for a second. I've pushed it through. I have put on my 90-degree cable adjuster. So the next step is to offer up the outer sheath, like so. Sorry if you can't see because of the light. The light in a better position. There we go. Offer up my outer sheath section there, and then I'm going to cut that to size to about there. Again, glue it in there to secure. Then that's the outer section done. Okay, next up, I'm going to show you how I'm going to make this end that is used to hold the cable on the throttle pedal end. So what I've done, I've got a piece of wood here, and I've bored a hole with a drill bit into the wood, and then with a smaller drill bit I've done a line from there to there, and then I threaded in my cable. Okay, the idea is I will put solder into there, it will melt using my torch and form a ball of solder attached to that cable. Okay, I've got some flux here to put in there as well, just so it makes sure it's a good solder connection. So I will stuff some flux. Ooh, drop my solder on the floor. Sorry about that. I will stuff some flux into there, bake off some small pieces of this, stuff that in there as well, get my burner out, heat it up, and I'll add some more solder to it. Once that is all done, I've got enough in there, I will cut the wood here just so I can retrieve the cable, and then I'll take it to a small belt sander and I shall shape it. It's quite soft in it, so that I'll shape it to that sort of shape, but I'll bring you back for that so I can show you the process. Okay, I'll also just using a pick or something, I will try and fray the little end a little bit just so it frays out, so the solder's got lots of surface area to grip to. Okay, here goes. I need hoping I don't set fire to myself. As you can see, I've now got a ball of solder. Sorry about the gammy finger, cut myself grinding earlier. I've got a ball of solder now stuck in there, it's gone hard. So I'm just going to cut this out. Let's have a look at it. There we are, that's on there. Not the prettiest, but it's on there, it's very strong. So obviously that's not going to work, that's not going to fit on the throttle cable. So my next step is to trim that down in size so it looks more like that. I probably could have done that with using a lot less solder, to be honest, but never mind. Okay, let's get some sanding on this.
The other day, my girl had done left me all broken up in the car. She had to break it to me, she was breaking up with me. And there we are, sports fans. Looking better. So I'll try fit this on the pedal now. If it's still a bit too big, I'll just keep sanding. until Right, to show you what it looks like from the pedal end. So there's the thing, the soldered end I just did and sanded the side. That goes over there. Oh. Sorry, trying to do this with one hand. And there you go. Okay, it's going to go through the hole in the bulkhead there, just behind it. So that works just fine. You might have to shave a little bit off the end because there's also this to go on the end, which is a little cap you put on the end there just to retain it. Okay, so happy with that. Okay, things are going well. So I've got a cable secured there, I've got it secured here, and it's also the actual metal cable is actually secured on the pedal. So now I just need to roughly pull tension and mark roughly where I want the barrel to sit. And make a cut. Because I'm not soldering this end on, it's a threaded, like I showed you before, it's this little hole with a grub screw. I don't have to be super accurate because if it's not quite right, I can just undo it and just pull it further away or further in. So a rough measurement is fine in this case. So I'm gonna go with about there. So I'll cut the excess off, fit my barrel. Let's see how it goes. And there we are. One custom throttle cable for a Mini with ITBs. There you go. So there's the connection that you saw me solder on before. And like I mentioned, I have just screwed in this barrel fitting here. Great thing about these is I can adjust them, like I said earlier. So looks quite profesh. Happy with that. So to get fitted, a little test. There we go. Power cable all installed. That was a bit fiddly. Let's give it a test-a-rooney. You'll have to see the butterfly valve opening. Wait. Pop! 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 Alrighty. Done. I'll leave this video here, I think. That took me a bit longer than expected. Next one, I think I'm still delaying the wiring. I'm scared. I will be black oxide coating all my brackets and fitting my custom drive shafts, I think. So, hope you found this video informative, and I'll catch you next time.